You know, I don't really like starting off a live stream mad, but I'm starting off a live stream mad. But I'll just say this. People just, like, confuse me sometimes. Alright. So. We are coming back, of course, to Late Night Micah, where I do a live stream around this time of the day to talk about whatever's on my mind and whatever's going on with stuff. And, yeah. Some nonsense going on today, man. It kind of... This is something that I find really, really weird to me. And I'm going to just rant for a bit. Is like... Everyone has become apathetic to everything that is not drama. You know? Just everything that is not drama, nobody wants a part of it. Usually I'm pulling in like 20, 30 people on a live stream. There's 13 people in here right now. You know, and I'm frustrated by that. It's like we can talk comic books. We can actually have some fucking fun with something. You know, do a long Q&A stream and stuff like that. And then it's like, nah, we would rather do all this other shit with drama stuff. And it really annoys the piss out of me. You know? Because I wonder what people are here for. You know? I genuinely wonder about it. You know, I'm interested in comic books. I'm interested in making comic books and things along those lines. I don't know what people are interested in anymore. When it comes to this. You know? And I'm incredibly frustrated by it. I think it's fucking idiotic. And it gets nothing done. You know, I had somebody message me about something about some argument within, like, the Phantom Menace about whether or not to cancel Dave Filoni or something like that. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about what fucking Doomcock thinks. You know, it's like, he's just a dude. He's a dude who puts on a goofy mask and a voice changer and complains about Star Wars. You know, God bless him, he's doing his thing. But at the same time, you know, it's such a minor thing. Like, who really gives a shit what Dave Filoni said 4 years ago? But people want to get upset, and they want to get angry about it, and they want to fight, and they want to have these arguments. And I think that they're stupid. I think they're absolutely stupid. And just a lot of it is just fucking cringy. That happens. Purity testing happens. All this other nonsense happens. And Ultimate Agent, shut up. I know he does more than that. I'm being general and I'm on a thing. Just stop it. The thing is, don't get autistic on me. The thing is that there is this weird obsession with wanting everybody to fight one another. And it's annoying. And here's the thing about it for me. What this reeks of is this idea that the world's not big enough for more than one person. You know? And that bugs the fuck out of me. It's like, yes it is. I don't know if you've been outside, but the world's pretty fucking huge. So as such, these attitudes and this constant anger just does nothing but mystify me. You know, I've had people who generally, they're people that I generally like, start purity testing me over Comicsgate stuff. Who are you with? You're part of a whisper network, aren't you? You know? And then I say, like, well, what whisper network? Well, you know. Do I? And you're getting paid by such and such person to have such and such opinions. Well, then where's my check? The people who pay me are RT and my own audience. You know? It's weird to me. Absolutely weird. So, when it comes right down to it, I find myself in this weird position where I just want to say to everyone, enough. Just enough with it. It's silliness. It makes no fucking sense. And the funny thing about it is it harkens back to something that I remember John Malin said about Nasser Rabidi about a year and a half ago. Is that the people who say that they're drama-free, or they don't want drama, or they don't want fights, are the ultimate agent. Stop it. When it comes right down to it, there is a general idea that, you know, there's that that people supposedly don't like drama. They don't like these fights. Well, then why keep getting embroiled in them? Why do you have to have the last word? Yeah, well, Wooster, I actually just finished reading Brutus. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But people just constantly want to get into it. And I don't get it. And I don't understand why. And it's so pointless. Because people just have to have the last word. People have to get the last dig in. You know, people have to just start the fight. I have to have this conversation. Do you really? So you can't live without saying the last word about it to somebody. You can't just move on. You know? But everybody wants to be right. What if nobody's right? You know, people accuse me of fence sitting a lot. But the thing is, I'm not picking any sides because I think everybody's being a spurg. You know? I think everyone takes everything a little too seriously. And then when they do that, the actual serious stuff gets affected. You know? And I don't get it. So what I'm going to do is this show is going to be a talk. You know, from me to the audience about different ideas that are within Comicsgate, but I'm going to try not to name any names. If I do, I'm just going to use them as an example. And then I'm going to smack Ultimate Agent for being autistic again. Just kidding, buddy. I love you, but Jesus Christ. I make, like, offhanded comments and then you feel like you have to correct me on them. Let it go. I probably don't know that much about the guy, and I don't need to know either. We're also going to talk about Alan Moore, and we're going to talk about the importance of writers. Um, so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, I try to be good to the people who are good to me. And the people who are good to me are comic book fans. Doesn't matter what faction or group you're in. I really don't care. Comic book fans have been good to me. All over. Comicsgate more so than any other group. So that's where my loyalties lie. To everybody that's good to me. I don't care about these interpersonal crap. I don't care what you think about Dynamite. I don't care what you think about that Star Wars girl. I don't care what you think about Ethan Van Sciver. I also don't care what you think about War Campaign. I just don't. And I don't like getting dragged into these fights, and everybody wants to drag me into them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the ideas. And then you can take those ideas that I talk about, and then you can take what I say, or you can leave it. Either way is fine with me. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to sell comic books that are badass. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Because, for those who don't know... Oh, hi, me. Meet the real me. In this misfit's way of life. A dark, black past is my most valued possession. Plain sight is always 20/20, but even then it's still a bit fuzzy. Speak of mutually assured destruction. Nice story. Anyway. Wrong window. There we go. So did anybody get the song that I just quoted? Does anyone know what it is? Just let me know in the chat. So, 3 Nights, 4 Days is out. It's on Indiegogo. It's only been live for 5 days. And we are 2/3 of the way there. No, we're more than 2/3 of the way there. We're almost 70% there. But it is live, ladies and gentlemen. 120 backers so far. And here's what's really cool. We have been on the trending page for arts and film for every single day this has been live because of you guys. You guys are seriously fucking awesome. We're getting there. We're fucking getting there. And real quick, let's go ahead and just go back through the tiers real quick. Comic and art book, this is our featured tier. It's $50 plus shipping, which is going to be $10 here in the United States, $25 everywhere else. This is, of course, the main comic, but also the sketchbook as well, which will have sketches from Preston Acevedo on top of that. The comic itself is only $25 for 44 pages full color. For $100, you get a custom sketch from Preston Acevedo inside of your art book. And by the way, if we sell out, I'm going to make you guys a deal. If we sell out of these by this Friday, I will open up 10 more spots. So 3 more, and then I will open up some more. You could be a cultist in the book for $250, but that also includes the art book and the 3 Nights, 4 Days Part 1 as well. And then finally, if you want an original comic book page, you'll get the book, the art book, and then that page itself. So this is basically, like, the art page is basically like $300 or $400, and everything else, or $450, which is about what Preston's art usually retails for. But these, of course, are going to be rare, because we're not selling them anywhere else. So, but you can back it today, 120 backers. Let's see if we can pick up a couple more during the course of this stream, of course. We'll go back through it, but real quick, what I'm going to go ahead and do is play the trailer right now. In our life on Earth, the closest thing we'll ever experience to hell itself is war. When brave souls emerge from these pits of fire and death, the first thing they look forward to is coming home. To family, to friends, and hopefully to never have to see that hell again. In the year 1188, 3 crusaders returned to England after the siege of Jerusalem with exactly that in mind. But the devil has different plans. Yes, hell has arrived. All right. So, let's talk about some stuff. Obviously, I'm very proud of 3 Nights, 4 Days. It is, so far of all the books that I've written, it is probably my best work. I think that it's a very unique story. It's a deeper story than Inglewood was, and Inglewood had some pretty cool themes to it. This is one that I wrote at a very special time of my life because there was a lot of strife going on. So the fact that it has been as successful as it has been is very big to me. So, but we're one backer from getting past the 7,500 mark. So if you have not backed it yet, please go ahead and do so. I know a lot of people are waiting for the poster though to go live, so don't worry. It is being worked on. I think it should probably be finished within the week. So, and there's also people who are waiting on Inglewood physical copies to back as well. Those, by the way, have just been shipped to us. So Hatman should be getting them here in the next couple of days, and then they're going straight out to you guys. At least the standard edition will come in first. The director's cut will probably come in a day later or so, and then we'll be going on from there. By the way, Felix Haas in the chat got the song I was referencing, Sweating Bullets by Megadeth. Well, Deathbringer got the band, Felix Haas got the song. So a little tag team action from my boys there. Appreciate you guys, seriously. But we've been doing pretty good. And you know what? In all that ranting, I didn't say hi to the chat. So, who all's here? Raycaster, Melee Brawler, Magical Robot Prisma, Ugly Media is here, Ultimate Agent, Madanui, and Wilberforce Wooster, Deathbringer, Felix Haas. Hail to you guys. Apologies for not naming you a little earlier. I usually say hi to the chat, but I had something on my mind that I wanted to start off with. So, with all that said, speaking of which, ta-da, Megadeth. So, good stuff. So one thing that we have done on Team Inglewood. Oh, Jake Gothic Sync is here as well. Hail, buddy. But, one thing that we have done on Team Inglewood, and that I have been doing a lot. Sebastian Marjorie's here, so is Alan Hughes. Nice to see you guys too. But one thing that I have been doing is looking around at different pages and things to kind of get an idea of where to go with the art in Inglewood. Because while the art is good, we want to make it great. So we will, of course, endeavor to do that for you guys. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to show you guys some stuff that I got on my mind. Because one thing that I have realized is going to be the goal for us in the future is detail. Detail, detail, detail. And the way that we put details into the pages. So I'm going to pull something up for you guys real quick. I'm going to show you some inked pages of some artists who I really, really enjoy. And this is basically something that we're going to find ourselves doing more in the future just so we can add some more detail and depth to the artwork of one Brian. So I'm looking for a specific image. Where did it go? Here we go. Let's make sure I can get the proper look here, just so you guys can get an idea of what I'm talking about. So, what I largely am a fan of is really, really good at inking. You know? I'm a big fan of inks. Good inkers can make for a great, great look. I mean, look at Miura there. So one thing that we will be focusing on a lot in Inglewood is inking. We're going to be having a conversation to kind of iron out the specifics. But I'll show you guys what I mean. So some of you know that I'm pretty cool with Art.T.Bear. Art.T.Bear, possibly the greatest inker in comic book history. So here's some of Ed McGuinness's art. Ed McGuinness is one of my favorite artists. I definitely want to put something of his up here, but up on my walls, but I don't know the piece that I would like. So probably a Hulk piece that he's done. But anyway, one thing that we are going to be working on, though, is inks to show detail and shadow. Because we think that that would probably give the art some much-needed depth and detail. So, just to show you guys what I mean, here's the colors, but here's the inks. And you can see how heavy that ink work is to show shadows of muscle and detail of muscle and things like that. So that'll be something that we find and if you look at that, like, there's very minimal inking on Emma Frost here, but there's heavy inking on Wolverine and Colossus, and as such, they look much more dynamic than she does. And you look at the colored version, it stays the same. You know, they have a more dynamic feeling. She feels very flat. Not a lot of depth to her. But these two, because of the blend with the colors and the inks, it gives it this depth, gives it this nice little pop, but it still feels like a nice comic book page. Another really good example, I was talking about Art.T.Bear. Here's some of his work. Unless you're watching art and this is not yours, in which case you're welcome to correct me. But, and yeah, Statistical Zero. I've got it right here. We're definitely going to be talking about this next. These are Art.T.Bear's inks on, and yeah, Dexter Vines is the one who does this one here. Because Dexter did a lot of Ed's inks for his Marvel work. And I think that's probably why his work at Marvel looked so much better than it did at DC, even though his stuff at DC looked great too for Batman, Superman. But anyway, these are Art's inks on my favorite artist, Mark Bagley's art. And Brian is one of those guys who has a very exaggerated style, very, very comic booky style. You know, a lot like a Bagley or a McGuinness, as opposed to Preston Acevedo, who has a much more grounded style in regards to, and very weighty pencils. You know, I don't know who I would compare Preston Acevedo to. You guys would have to kind of give me an idea. But because I usually like Rob Wilson, I usually compare him to what's his name? Dale Keown. So, but anyway, but these are Art.T.Bear's inks, and as you can see, and this is one thing that was great about Art working on Mark Bagley's pencils, is that the inks really bring Spider-Man to life and the shadows to life, and you know, you could see it here. The world just looks amazingly detailed. And that is all, you know, what we're going to be focusing on. Like, you can see these little details in the pencils here of the houses and stuff like that. What we were doing with Inglewood is, oh, hey, Blue Samurai. we were doing a lot of these details in Photoshop when Armand was doing the coloring. Instead, now what we're going to do is we're going to do these with the pencils and inks instead, so that way it looks a little bit more detailed. But yeah, this is Ultimate Spider-Man. Here's another good shot of it too. This is also an ultimate one. And as you can see here, again, Art is able to use those inks to show detail on muscle and things like that. And we could just as easily do that with Inglewood, and that is what the goal is going to be. With Armand's color work, he's already good at what he does, but we're going to make some fine-tune adjustments. I had a pretty late conversation last night with Michael Bancroft about some ideas on how we could improve it. So, and maybe using a more cel-shaded look. I don't know yet. We're gonna experiment, I think. But again, what my goal is with Inglewood Book 2 is to take a good comic and turn it into a stunning comic. You know, I think that we're gonna get there, because there's definitely some pages on Inglewood that were already stunning, but we want to make sure that all of them are stunning. You know, I think that that's an important thing for us to do as a team. So, like, I'll show you guys what I mean, like with pages that are already stunning. You know, I'm gonna pull my favorite page of the whole comic. If it'll show up. I think it's page 10. Yeah. This is easily my favorite page of the whole book. And there's a lot of good pages. Like, this artwork is amazing. And Armand, this is probably like the best, I think the best page just in general. And a lot of it has to do with how Armand blends skin. But as you can see here, there's a lot of heavy shadows. But a lot of these shadows are done during the coloring process, which work pretty well sometimes, but in some situations not as much. So that's why I want to focus a little bit more on ink work than color work. So, and that, not to mention, it'll put less burden on Armand, so he can go ahead and, you know, we can get the comics moving faster. So, but he is a phenomenal colorist. You know, he's very, very good. There's just little things that we need to do to tighten it up and make it that much better. So, we'll get there, though. Of that, I have no doubt. But then again, that's my job as the project lead. And this is something, we're going to talk a little bit about writing and project lead stuff for those of you who want to make your own comics. Speaking of which, Statistical Zero is here, and I want to see a book of his webcomics. Because they're funny. They're very funny, and I would buy one. But yeah. The thing about being a project lead that I'm learning is there is a necessity to be constantly invested in the improvement of the work that your team is doing. And that is why I do that. But I am a writer. Writers are important. You can have pretty art all day, but it doesn't really... It needs more. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about one of my favorite comics of all time. Alan Moore's WildC.A.T.S. Now, I am a big fan of Alan Moore, as are a lot of writers. But my favorite Alan Moore stories are not Watchmen and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. My favorite Alan Moore stories are Saga of the Swamp Thing and this, and For the Man Who Has Everything. I like his comic books. I like his Cape comics because he is an interesting writer whenever it comes to them, and he's always willing to try new things with an already established team. And he always has very interesting twists and turns that he involves things in. But back in '92 is when WildC.A.T.S came out. Some of you might remember this team. This character right here, Grifter, sucks. I hate Grifter. Grifter's the worst. If Art Taber's watching, because I know he inked some of these, I'm sorry, man. Like, just, fuck. I can't stand Grifter. But, the other characters, Maul, Voodoo, you know, so on and so forth. Like, I like them. I like Maul a lot, actually. But the, I was forgetting names. Zealot and Warblade. But it started in 1992 after Jim left Marvel, and with a lot of other people from Image, or that created Image. And yeah, Unqualified Comics, I did grow my hair back out. The problem of early Image is that the art was beautiful. Nobody remembers the stories. Like, I remember the basics of WildC.A.T.S from back then. I remember Lord Hellspawn. I remember the Daemonites. I remember the appearance of Majestic, because he was basically Superman, but an asshole. And, what else was there? That was about it. And I remember Voodoo being hot. That's about it. And Voodoo was a stripper. So, go figure, right? But the thing about that, and a series like Youngblood, you don't really remember a lot of the details of those stories because they're not particularly memorable. Does anyone really remember any of the arcs from Youngblood? I don't. I don't remember any of the arcs from Savage Dragon. I don't remember, like, fucking... Actually, I don't remember fucking anything from Savage Dragon. And I've read a lot of Savage Dragon. I've read, like, the first 100 issues. I don't remember fuck all of what happened in them. The only ones that I really remember are Spawn. But then again, Spawn was a better comic. And Ugly Media brings up a good point. You know, it was mostly artists that did it. Now, there was a writer on WildC.A.T.S. It was Brandon Choi. I've never really found Brandon Choi to be that wonderful. You know, he's okay. You know, he's not amazing. He's not one of those writers that whenever I see Brandon Choi, I just have to read it. But if I see Alan Moore, I have to read it, you know? If I see Warren Ellis, I have to read it. But wow, this art is beautiful. Sorry. Got distracted. That was one thing that you could count on whenever it comes to WildC.A.T.S was great looking art. But yeah, just in the early days, the like, here's a really good example of it. This cover here. Let me show you some other really good ones. There's one page specifically that I'm thinking of that, oddly enough, had really, really good ink work on it. Where is it at? Did I pass it already? But anyway, the one thing that everyone remembers, though, about the Wildcats is the book that I'm holding, the Alan Moore run. Because Alan Moore took the concept that is in Wildcats, which is a cool concept, don't get me wrong, but he takes it up to 11. And he makes it a story that is incredibly worth reading. Here's another good one. And here's the thing about Wildcats. Some of these characters fucking suck. You know? Some of them just aren't good. They're not interesting. Like, I mentioned fucking, oh god, what is his name? Grifter. Grifter sucks. Grifter sucks, he's lame, nobody likes him. Except for Grifter fans, and Grifter fans are weird. And then, I can't even remember, Spartan, the team leader, the fucking robot. You know, he's so uninteresting. But Alan Moore in this book actually manages to make him interesting. Why is that? Writers don't look at things the same way artists do. Writers look at things differently. Writers, we look at beyond the skin, basically. We look at the things beneath. This is what we're focused on, is the mentality of the person of the character. You know, the aesthetics are the focus of the artist. You know? That's it. Oftentimes, when I talk to my artists, one thing that we're constantly talking about is the practicality of what's there. But it looking cool is more so what they're going to be good at than me, admittedly. You know, I'm thinking about what makes people who they are and why they are the way they are. So let's pull up a really good example of that. So it's not really a secret. I talk about it quite a bit. Bob Stone and I are working on a comic called Project Lazarus together, and it's going to be my team book, my Wildcats, in a sense. My authority, my Stormwatch, I guess. Yeah, Stormwatch would be more appropriate, or Excalibur. So, this is the lead character, Alpha. And when I look at this character, I'm not really thinking of how badass he looks, which, by the way, we're taking this torso and we're taking these pants, basically. But I'm thinking about the interior. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about the mind. I'm curious about what he thinks. I'm curious about why he is the way he is. I'm curious about what makes him tick, you know? And when I look at this character, I see a badass. I see literally the strongest character in the universe, or in that universe. But I also see and think of what's beneath the skin and why it's there. Why does he behave the way that he does? What makes him who he is? How would I describe this man? How would I look at him? If I had a conversation with him, what would that conversation be like? Things of those natures. And I look at every character like that because I am a writer. You know, that is my job. That is what I do. That's how I look at the world. You know, I want to get to know the person. I want to get to know the person behind them. Are they as bad as everyone says they are? Are they as good as everyone says they are? These are the questions that are important to me. And it is those questions that when Alan Moore took on Wildcats that made it so fucking memorable. Here's another really good example. These comics right here. Stormwatch Volume 1 and 2, and these are the Warren Ellis run. The Authority, and then Wildcats vs. Aliens, because this ties into these, oddly enough. So here's something funny before we move on. Wildcats vs. Aliens, like most of the vs. Aliens comics are non-canon to the storyline. In the Wildstorm universe, before it was reset because of the New 52, because it was owned by DC. Xenomorphs were canon, and the fact that they killed most of Stormwatch was canon, believe it or not. Kind of crazy, right? I don't know, I've always found that so interesting that Warren Ellis had the balls to have a bunch of Xenomorphs kill half of Stormwatch off screen. I thought that was kind of cool. It was. Then again, Warren Ellis does shit like that all the time. But that's kind of what I like about him. But this team's Stormwatch was a whole lot of nothing until Warren Ellis took them over and then made them interesting. He put them at odds with the U.S. government. He put them in a tenuous position with the United Nations. He made their leader, Henry Bendix, a sociopath. All this other stuff, and in doing so, he made that team that much more compelling. And it affected the way that the characters were written and perceived forever. But the only reason that they became that interesting is because a writer touched them. A writer with supreme talent. Because Warren Ellis is one of the best comic book writers of all time. He's my favorite. He's probably the one that I am most inspired by. Probably him, Frank Miller, and then Go Nagai are probably my 3 favorite writers of all time. So... But that's the thing. There's this weird thing that goes out there, even here in Comicsgate, where there's a lot of importance that's put on artists, but not a lot of people really like to talk writers. You know? I don't even know who you would say is the most popular writer in Comicsgate. And I mean, like, guy who is just a writer. It's not me. I don't think. Might be Liam Gray, oddly enough, given how many comics he sold. Well, who sold more, me or Liam? I've sold 620 issues of Inglewood. And I sold... How many 3 Nights have I sold so far? Um... 44 plus 105. 149. 149 plus 620. 720 something. I've sold like 730 comics. Oh yeah, it's your boy. It's Richard. Richard is the most popular writer in Comicsgate. And then after that would probably be me or Liam. But there's a big discrepancy there, if you think about it. And by the way, Richard started as an artist. So, crazy when you think about it, right? And there's others as well. Mark Polton's a really... Well, and that's the thing. Mark Polton doesn't really get talked about with Graveyard Shift. Well, and there's also Von Klaus. Von Klaus is also exceedingly popular. But we don't really get talked about in the same sentence as someone like Ethan Van Sciver or John Malin or what have you. By the way, I'm not saying that we're entitled to that. We have to earn that. But I find it interesting. You know? I find it very interesting. Because in mainstream comics, I would like to think it's kind of between the two. I think there's just as many writers that are talked about as artists. You know? Because you've got great artists like Jim Lee, Ethan. Well, Ethan's not really mainstream anymore, but then again he is, you know? Mark Bagley, so on and so forth. But then you've got the guys who can kind of do both, like Jim Starlin. But you've also got guys who just write, you know. Brian Azzarello is a really good example of that. Jeff Johns, so on and so forth. Brian Michael Bendis. even though he's not nearly as good as he used to be. So on and so forth. Statistical Zero makes a very good point, though, is they brought a big fan base with them, and then we're building from the ground up. And I think that it's definitely a big part of it, you know? Because Vaughn has 2 books to his name now. He's got Monster MD, and then he's working with Martina on Lady Alchemy. And then I've got Inglewood is done and out there and published. And then I've got 3 Nights, 4 Days. Cal Jameson, I would like to say, but I don't think he's Comicsgate anymore. I think he basically left at this point. But a lot of it, you know, for us writers, I think we kind of get a little overlooked with what we bring to the table. Because I look at certain characters and I think to myself, like, what could I do with this? What if somebody gave me this property? What would I do with it? You know? So here's me fence writing. If CG Jumpstart happens, I would love to write a story for it. Absolutely. And I could probably come up with a nice little short story that a lot of people would find pretty fun. Maybe like a 10, 12 pager or something like that. It would just be about finding an artist for it. On the flip side, if Ethan said, Micah, I want you to write a story for the Cyberfrog fan magazine that I'm going to do, I'd do that too. Because I would be interested in writing like a 12-page Salamandroid story. Or, I'd almost love to write a Heather Swain story of her fleeing the Vespers. I think I could make a really interesting kind of horror story out of that. You know? That would be, I think, really, really cool to do as well. But that's how I look at things, you know? But, I think that I could probably take that character and do something very unique with him. And I'm not saying that what anybody else is doing with their characters is bad. I just want to take a swing at it. Because I think I could do something cool with it. You know, I think I could do something unique with it. And I think that is what comes into this. Alan Moore, when he went and did WildC.A.T.S, he took basically what was Jim Lee's Not X-Men X-Men and really made them much more deep as characters. And as such, you could kind of get into the mind of each of them. Like, after reading these stories, I feel like I know more about Maul. I feel like I know a lot more about Voodoo and Zealot and Warblade, you know? I don't know anything about fucking Grifter because he sucks, but, you know, even Alan Moore couldn't make him interesting. Alan Moore, Warren Ellis, and Grant Morrison could all do a giant pile of acid together, and you leave them locked in a room with Jim Lee and say, come up with the greatest grifter comic of all time, they would all come out of there and go, fuck, mate, I have no fucking clue what to do with this gay-looking asshole. They'd write something else. They'd write Grifter dies, and Jim Lee would be sitting in the corner just weeping, you know. Why did Digital Comics work out the way they wanted to? No, I'm kidding. But, that's how much Grifter sucks. I hate Grifter. Hate him. So, yeah. Goodness. If you want a more interesting version of Grifter, go read Jawbreakers. That's what Devil Dog is. Devil Dog is a considerably more interesting Grifter. Their masks are even, somewhat similar. It's just Devil Dogs actually looks consistent. It looks like it like wouldn't be a pain in the ass to wear on your face. Yeah, Chuck Dixon is great, Statistical Zero. He's one of my favorites, too. His Batman, I think, is the best Batman, in comics. I don't know anybody that really touches him. So, with all of that said, we've been going for an hour, and I've been ranting about the importance of writers. I wish Liam was here. I invited him to come on, but he's still taking a break. So, he kind of had some shitty stuff happen to him today. People accusing him of misappropriating the Xenotype funds with zero evidence. That I thought was very uncalled for. So. But he's my buddy. He's my buddy. I'm protective of my friends. I won't lie. So, let's hit the chat for about 20 minutes or so. And we'll talk stuff. Nobody has backed 3 Nights, 4 Days yet, but I'm assuming that everybody already has backed it. So, that's in the chat right now, which is good. I'm glad that you guys did. Very happy, to say the least. Though I imagine some people are also waiting for Inglewood to be in their hands first, which is understandable. When I launched the campaign, I said that. So, let's go ahead and see what is up. Cal usually streams with Muttman and Macho Dan, the guys from the Hero book. Yeah, I think that fading is his own device. It's his own problem. I don't even remember the last time that he updated fucking what's it? Shinobi Sasquatch. Michael Chavez says, wanted to ask your opinion about a character I made, sent an email to you about him, was hoping to get your professional opinion on him. Okay. Let me have a look. Let's see, first I'll make sure I got the email. I haven't checked my email much today, so. Here we go. Okay. I think you sent this one to me before. So, on his design, I'm just going to look at him because I know how harsh the chat can be. On his design, he feels... The helmet is way too Isaac Clarke-ish. Too much. As in, it looks like a helmet from Dead Space. I would reconsider that design. The rest of him, I mean, he looks like a pretty cool gunslinger. I like the cape. I'm big on capes. For certain characters and things like that. The rest of the outfit's perfectly fine. So design-wise, he looks pretty cool. As for everything else, let me see if there is a quick description of him. So for this lead guy, there's not really much to say about him because there's not really any details. So here's something that I'll tell you right now. Your character sheet is overly complicated. Don't give characters theme songs if you're writing it. I wouldn't actually bring that into play. Because you're thinking about lyrics to a song too much, and it's gonna taint the way you write them. So ditch that. I'm gonna be harsh for a minute. So, I'm now my editing hat is on because I work as an editor too. Okay, never remembered his birthday. Cut it. Don't even think about it. You want him to remain mysterious. Some of these things when you're writing them, it's good not to even think about them. Just hold on to them in your brain. Sexual orientation doesn't matter. Throw that out. Don't even think about it. You should let those things just flow from you. A lot of this stuff you could have just put in one paragraph about his background and stuff like that. Instead, you've kind of got this character sheet overly complicated, and when you do this too much, you're going to start second guessing everything that you do when you actually put pen to paper. So I would reconsider it. What I would just do is knock it down to the bare minimum. Name, age, physical stats like height, weight, things like that. Hair color, and then just do a short biography. Don't overcomplicate it, because if you overcomplicate, and I'll actually show you Inglewood's real quick so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So, this is Elijah Wallace in Inglewood. Paragraph, final sentence, physical stuff, actor illusion. That's it. That's all you need. If you put too much into it, you are going to overthink the character. Don't get so hung up on your world building that you neglect giving yourself the room to actually write. So, that is my very brutal thoughts on that. So, all right. Angry Green Boss wants to know, how would you write a supporting protagonist when the story isn't really about them, but they're dragged along for the ride? That's a good question. I have to actually think about it now. I don't usually think about it because there's a deuterotagonist in Inglewood Book 2. I don't know if there's really a science to it. It really just sort of, the way that I've done it is I sat down and I wrote basically this, I just had this idea. It came from a problem, basically. A problem, of, after Elijah, because here's the thing, the first arc of Inglewood was outlined over a year and a half ago, and after I outlined the first issue, which is what is published already, what I did was I conceptualized how it would work beyond that. So what I realized very early on was that he needed a support team. So that was the solution to the problem, is giving him a support team. So what I ended up doing was creating the character of Shorty. Shorty is a detective for the Chicago PD who is also Elijah Wallace's best friend. They grew up together. And Shorty is the person who suggests that Elijah have a support squad behind him to take care of technology and all these other things. And the basic thing that I had was one thing is I don't want him to be Batman. I don't want him to be Daredevil. I don't want him to be all these other dark characters. I must be alone. I must be alone. I must be alone. I must be alone. Grim, grim, grim. Dark, dark, dark. Blah, 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 blah. Mood. You know, I didn't want that. I didn't want that sort of a character. I wanted him to be focused. I wanted him to have a goal. And I wanted him to have this idea of, I'm going to keep a circle of trust. I'm going to keep a small number of people close to me that can help me do this. Because I know I can't do it alone. Because he's a mixed martial artist. He knows that he needs a coach. He knows that he needs an instructor. He knows that he needs a dietitian. So on and so forth. It's the same problem solving. So with the character, I said to myself, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do that. We're going to make him that kind of a character where he's willing to open up his circle of trust to other people. So yeah. But along with it, I realized that Shorty would have to be an important character to him because he's his intel guy. He's a cop who's feeding him intel to try to bring down gangs. You know? Michael, it's my pleasure. And trust me when I tell you, letting go of those elements sometimes can be the best thing. One thing that I just do is I go on walks when I need inspirations for designs and look at the world around me. And then sometimes the idea just goes boop right into my head. Call it a gift from God. Or luck. I like to go with God instead. My experience, there's no such thing as luck. So, yeah. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody alright? I hope so. I hope that this is a better, more chill stream for you guys than a lot of other stuff that's been going on lately. You know? I like to be Comicsgate Switzerland. And then again, I've actually talked to some people in the chat about this. They know Wooster knows my frustrations. I've talked to him about it. So does Blue Samurai, you know. I don't think Poland's in here, but he would know too what I mean. My pits smell. Worked out today. I'm almost stinky. Changus is good. That's always good. Good to see you, Changus. Prefer talking about this over COVID-19 and the riots any day. I know, right? This is more entertaining. This is more interesting. So, Dark Gift! Hey, buddy. Oh, goodness. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else really to talk about. There's a bunch of business stuff on my mind that I gotta do tonight. David V is here. Hey, David. Let's see here. Ultimate Agent wants to know what Marvel heroes would fit DC's standard of hero. The only ones I could think of would Captain America and Spider-Man. What, they're like pure hero, I don't kill type? Cyclops, Storm, Black Panther, the Fantastic Four. Who else? Trying to think. The Falcon. Moon Knight. Hawkeye. The Vision. Silver Surfer, Dark Gift puts that in there. Yeah, Silver Surfer would be another good example. Um, yeah, guys like that. Let's see here. What else we got in the chat today? Michael Chavez, what do you think of the one with him and his sister? I thought it was cute. I thought it was definitely a photo that told the story. You know, that's something that I really enjoy. Yeah, Nova's a really good example too of somebody who would fit the DC standard. There's a lot of them. Quasar would be another one. The original Captain Marvel, would fit that. There's a ton. There's a lot of great heroes in Marvel. You just gotta look for them. Like Iron Man, I don't think he tried to avoid killing people until like the Warren Ellis run. And even then, like he only takes out one guy, and that's Malin. By the way, Extremis is an incredible Warren Ellis story. Pick that shit up. It's the best Iron Man story ever. Next to Armor Wars. Armor Wars and Demon in the Bottle. So, let's see here. Sentry when he's on his meds, which is never. You write villains? Yes, David, I do. I'm actually quite good at writing villains, I think. Because there's two in Inglewood. There's Carlos, and then there's Terry Trevors. Both of them are good bastards too. I like them. I like both of them. We're gonna see more of Terry much later. Not in this not when I finish this arc, but the next one, which is gonna be called City of Assassins. It's gonna be a pretty badass book. It's gonna be big. It might be a two-parter. I might do like 2 44-page books like I'm doing with 3 Nights 4 Days. I don't know yet. Because, yeah, it'd be like Inglewood, City of Assassins Part 1. Inglewood, City of Assassins Part 2. I am going to start doing this thing, though, like, where I have multi-part books of, like, saying if we hit 6 figures, we'll just finish the comic. You know? We'll just do the whole thing. Fuck it. We'll take a graphic novel, we'll turn it into a trade paperback for you. You know. Let's see here. Melee Brawler 64 says, "Why does Marvel keep hiring writers who have no prior experience writing comic books?" Clout. That's largely it. Like, that's why they grab Ta-Nehisi Coates, and why they'll grab other political figures and YA novelists is for clout. You know, we hired the woman. We hired the black guy. Stuff like that. Oh, how do I write villains? I'll get to that in a second, David. Because I have a whole philosophy on writing villains. Think. And definitely Angry Green Boss. You definitely have my prayers. What was I saying? Lost my train of thought. Frick. Oh, right. Yeah. So it's largely to like meet quotas and things like that. And for clout and things like that, which is why I'm not a big fan of, encouraging people to be comic book writers if they don't have the talent. There are some people who want to get into comics that are in Comicsgate, might not be very good writers, but they'd probably be great editors because they have a great critical mind and they have a great attention to detail. I think Yellow Flash would be a really, really good editor. So. 'Cause, 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 So David Feed wanted to know my philosophy on writing villains. So my philosophy on writing villains is be dastardly and bastardly. Write assholes. Because I am not a fan of character... Like, everybody wants to write villains to be relatable. Because they really like Quentin Tarantino. I like Tarantino too. But some of his villains could stand to be more of dicks than they are. But he's big on shades of gray. But the thing is, Quentin Tarantino can pull off shades of gray. Not everybody can. It's hard to do. Not to mention, most people you meet in your life are going to have a very black and white morality. So, especially Americans. So with villains, what I like to do is I like to just make them assholes. I like to have them do mean shit. You know, I like them to say mean shit. You know, like, hey, chat, for those of you who have read Inglewood, what are your opinions of Carlos? Express it in 2 words. That'll tell you what their feelings are about Carlos after that. So, but that's the power of a good villain. But anyway, that's my philosophy. Write them as assholes. Write them as scumbags. You know, if they're a villain, write them like a villain. Write them like a douchebag. Cruella de Vil. Don't try to make Cruella de Vil relatable. You know? Make her evil as fuck. She wants to skin puppies. That's fucking evil. You know? Scar from fucking Lion King. You know, he murdered his fucking brother. You know, in front of his nephew. He's a fucking asshole. And he has fucking Nazi hyenas. He's a fucking asshole. You know? Jafar is a fucking asshole. You know? So on and so forth. Darkus says, speaking of Inglewood, will there be a second chance? I missed it like a dolt. I'm considering it. Definitely considering it. We'll have to see what happens. I might sell some of the extras on eBay. Yeah, Servant of God gets it. Fuck Carlos. That after that comic, fuck Carlos is a thing. Because fuck Carlos. You know? He's a dick. That's how I write villains. You know? Anything else is an anti-hero. Or an anti-villain. And it's not the same. You know? If I'm doing villains, I'm doing fucking villains. So. Let's see here. No worries, Serena. I'm glad you're here. Scar did nothing wrong. Also, David, I did get your email. Use the cover for your book, man. You know, I want you to get more sales, and if that helps you, I want to see that. I think that what I will probably do also is probably put it as a 2-page feature in the art book of 3 Nights. I think that would be a really cool idea. In fact, let's do something real quick. I hope you guys have your wallets ready, because I'm gonna introduce you guys to another dark fantasy that I actually saw before David contacted me, called Red Eyes. Now, David has met his goal, which is awesome, but he could still use some more backers. So, this book, Red Eyes, very much reminds me of the Meta Barons, which is part of the reason I dig it. I love this right here. This is a beautiful image, David. Seriously. You should be proud of that. This is a dark fantasy book. Big team, too. The tale of Fair and Fair, son of the insurgents' leader. A complacent, incompetent, spoiled child who is drafted on a very special mission, a mission of penance. Some would even call it a suicide mission, but Farron's not alone. Commander Fainal Garen, legendary hero of the insurrection, will see this mission succeed. Farron is is to return a hero or die with the honor of the insurrection. One thing I would do, David, add a paragraph above this, telling us a little bit more about the world, about what the insurrection is and their importance, or something along those lines. Because one thing that I have on my side is mine is technically historical fiction and horror, so I can just say after the Second Crusade and everybody knows what I'm talking about, you know. But that's something that I would add in there. But the art fucking looks gorgeous. He killed a chicken. By the way, this is what I meant by inks. Like, these... I don't know who you got doing your inks, David, if your penciler does them or what, but he's doing a pretty solid job. I like how he does this here. So, give your inker a bonus at some point. But, it's great stuff, man. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and link this in the chat, and I'm going to, hopefully this will get you some backers, buddy. And I'm also going to, because my mods are not here today, I'm going to put this in the description as well. So give me 1 second. So there you go, man. Hopefully that helps out. I'm happy that you made your goal, though, buddy. I think that when people read this, they're gonna really dig it. Finish X-Aid. Yeah, I was actually, I need to get back on that tonight. I'm gonna watch some of it when I'm doing my writing. But yeah, it's beautiful art, guys. Seriously. Let's see here. So Chavez wants to know, aside from all the stuff I already suggested, what else would I suggest to a beginner writer like him? I would just do your first draft. You know, go ahead and get your first draft done and hand it over to an editor. Find somebody who is going to give you brutal advice, who is not interested in stroking your ego. They're interested in making you better. That's what Hatman does for me. Hatman will flat out tell me if a storyline doesn't fucking work. You know, or if there's a Simpsons did it moment, you know, he will tell me, you know, but that's what you want in your editor. So, and by the way, I'm not currently for hire, just so you know. I will be at some point. I'm doing editing work for another book under the Sleeveless brand called Bombshell that Brian Martinez, my artist on Inglewood, is doing. I'm the editor on that book. Hatman's focusing on editing me. So, I'm actually of the opinion that if a company, people are worried about Dynamite for some reason these days. Let's say Dynamite says, "Hey, Micah Curtis, we really like 3 Nights, 4 Days. Would you be willing to write a Vampirella story?" And I would say yes. I would actually say yes, because I do want to write Vampirella at some point. But I would say on one condition. Your guys don't edit the script, my guy does. And you pay him. That'd be my condition. That and that Preston Acevedo does the book. I really want Preston to do Who in here has not seen a Preston Acevedo fucking Vampirella? Because I'm going to show you right now. I love showing off Preston's artwork. Because I hired him and I'm paying well to have him, so meh. That is why I would want Preston Acevedo on Vampirella. Jesus. Fucking impeccable. Feast your eyes. Seriously. Y'all don't even know. Yeah. He's damn good at what he does. Speaking of which, my friends from Graded, which, by the way, tomorrow night I will be on Graded Point 5, so you guys definitely need to check that out. But I love his Peregrine too. Nobody better ever question why I hired Preston fucking Acevedo. You know? He's damn good at what he does. If I ever watched Rising of the Shield Hero, yes, I enjoy the early parts of it. But then later on it kind of just becomes your standard isekai, and I kind of fell out of it. So, all right, guys. It has been an hour and a half. I have to get started on work. So, I had a ton of fun, though, for sure. So, before we take off, let's, real quick, 3 nights, 4 days. If you have not backed it yet, please consider doing so. I'm going to get on my poster artist to, finish that up for me, and that will be awesome. And yeah, you guys are really going to enjoy this, to say the least. If you, by the way, if you are on the mailing list for 3 nights, 4 days, check your emails. There is a link in there that is to a virgin cover of this book. Well, 2 virgin covers, and I'll show them real quick to what I mean. Because we haven't had a lot of people actually commit to those, oddly enough, that were on the mailing list. So if you were on it, you know, get that link. If you signed up for it, you didn't get the link, let Hatman know. He's on Twitter at @thehat2, or you can email him at alex@hatman.net, and he will make sure you get that link. Just make sure you're emailing him for the same email address that you signed up on, or else we're not going to know it's actually you. This will be on Indiegogo for the rest of the month. So, but let me show you guys what I mean by the virgin cover as opposed to the normal one. So when you commit to that tier, you will get this sketch cover and this color cover. And then on top of that, you can also add on the art book and the poster and another comic if you want it. So lots of options for you guys. Link in the description. Like I said, we're 5 days in. It's been awesome so far. You all rock. Seriously. Let's get to 70% this week. So even if you can't back it yet, if you're on Twitter and you see me tweeting about it, send it out there. Let's get the word out to as many people as possible. Let's try to get funded in 10 days. I think we can do that. Because I am not resting on the 7th day. That is for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and play the trailer, and we're going to call it then. But until next time, guys, my name is Micah Curtis, your favorite vanilla gorilla. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. In our life on Earth, the closest thing we'll ever experience to hell itself is war. When brave souls emerge from these pits of fire and death, the first thing they look forward to is coming home. To family, to friends, and hopefully to never have to see that hell again. In the year 1188, 3 crusaders returned to England after the siege of Jerusalem with exactly that in mind. But the devil has different plans.